Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair on the bridge of the USS Valiant, watching the stars drift past through the main screen. The ship was big, one of the newer exploration vessels that carried 200 humans and 30 alien observers from different worlds. Today felt like any other day in space, quiet and peaceful as they moved through the Kepler sector on their regular patrol. "Hey, Captain, you want some coffee?" asked Lisa Hayes from her spot at the weapons station. She was the ship's tactical officer, a woman with short brown hair who always seemed to have a smile on her face. "I just made a fresh pot and how bad the replicator stuff tastes." Jake turned in his chair and grinned. I can't say no to real coffee. Thanks, Lisa." The bridge was a mix of humans and aliens working together. At the science station sat Scifi, a tall reptilian creature from the Saurian Empire. His green scales caught the light from the displays as he worked. Next to him was Veltar, who looked like a giant insect with 4 arms and large compound eyes. Veltar represented the Hive Coalition and spoke for millions of connected minds back on his homeworld. Captain Morrison Scifi said in his deep voice, "I still do not understand why humans drink so much of that brown liquid. My people find it quite bitter." Lisa laughed as she handed Jake his coffee. "That's because you guys don't know how to live. Coffee is what keeps us going out here in the black." "The Hive finds human dietary habits curious," Veltar added, his voice coming through a translator device. "You consume many things that have no nutritional value simply for pleasure. That's what makes life worth living," said Communications Officer Kate Sullivan from her station near the back of the bridge. She was young, maybe 25, with red hair tied back in a ponytail. "You can't just eat to survive. You've got to enjoy it too." Jake sipped his coffee and smiled. This was what he loved about mixed crews. Aliens always seemed puzzled by human behavior, but they were starting to understand that humans did things differently. Where other species were serious and formal, humans joked around and made friends. Where others followed strict protocols, humans bent the rules when it made sense. "Captain," called out Navigation Officer Chris Young from his station, "We're coming up on the Nexus Prime station. Should I drop us out of faster-than-light travel?" "Yeah, bring us in nice and slow," Jake said. "We're not in any hurry." The Valiant dropped out of warp speed, and the massive space station appeared on the screen. Nexus Prime was a neutral meeting place where different species could trade and share information. It looked like a huge metal city floating in space, with ships from dozens of different worlds docked to its outer ring. "Look at that," said Dr. Ryan Clark, the ship's chief medical officer. It was an older man with gray hair who had joined them on the bridge to see the station. "Every time we come here, there are more ships. The galaxy keeps getting smaller." "That's a good thing," Lisa said. "It means fewer wars, more talking." "The Saurian Empire agrees with this view," Scifi said. "War brings only destruction. Trade and cooperation benefit all species." As they approached the station, Jake's good mood started to spread to the rest of the crew. Someone started playing music over the ship's speakers, something with a good beat that made people want to move. Even some of the aliens seemed to enjoy it, though they didn't really understand human music. "Nexus Prime Control. This is the EU's Valiant requesting docking permission," Kate said into her headset. "Valiant, you are cleared for docking Bay 7. Welcome back, humans." The voice from the station sounded friendly. Jake knew they had a good reputation here. Humans were known for being easy to work with and fair in their dealings. They didn't try to cheat anyone, and they always kept their word. "Captain," said Marine Lieutenant Amy Foster as she entered the bridge, "the shore leave list is ready if you want to look at it. Half the crew wants to visit that new restaurant on level 5. Was tough, a career soldier who could handle herself in any fight, but she also cared about her people. Her squad loved her because she made sure they had fun when they weren't working." "Sounds good," Jake said. "Make sure everyone knows they have 6 hours before we ship out again. Remind them about the no fighting rule." "I don't want to bail anyone out of station security again. You got it, sir?" The docking process went smooth, with the station's automated systems guiding the Valiant into its assigned bay. Through the windows, Jake could see other ships from across the galaxy. There were sleek vessels from the Altarian Republic, heavy. Cargo haulers from the Trade Federation, and even a few military ships from various worlds. "Captain, we're getting a priority message," Kate said, her voice suddenly serious. "It's coming through the emergency channels." The relaxed mood on the bridge shifted. Priority messages on emergency channels meant trouble somewhere in the galaxy. Jake set down his coffee and straightened up in his chair. "Put it through, Kate." Main screen changed to show a communication interface. The signal was weak and full of static, but Jake could make out a human voice, speaking in short, panicked bursts. "This is Colony Administrator Ben Parker on New Portland. We are under attack by unknown forces. Pete, New Portland is under attack. They're not like anything we've seen before. They're taking people alive. Oh God, they're taking them alive. We need immediate assistance. Our defenses are falling. If anyone receives this message, stay away from New Portland. These things, they're not here to conquer. They're here to harvest us." The screaming, you can hear the screaming from miles away. The message cut off, leaving the bridge in complete silence. Jake felt his blood turn cold. New Portland was a peaceful colony world with over 2 million people, mostly families, who had left Earth to start new lives. "Kate, try to re-establish contact," Jake ordered. "I'm trying, sir, but there's nothing. The signal's completely dead." Jake stood up from his chair, his mind already shifting into emergency mode. "Chris, plot a course for New Portland. Maximum speed, Amy. Get your Marines ready for anything. Ryan, prepare the medical bay for casualties." Captain Scifi said quietly. "New Portland is 3 days away at maximum speed." Jake nodded grimly. "Then we better hope we're not too late." 3 days later, the UZ Valiant dropped out of warp space near New Portland. What they saw made everyone on the bridge stop breathing for a moment. The planet that should have been green and blue with cities dotting the surface was now covered in strange dark patches. Massive alien ships hung in orbit like black metal spiders, each one bigger than anything in the human fleet. "My God." Dr. Ryan Clark whispered from where he stood behind Jake's chair. The ships were unlike anything in the Galactic database. They looked grown rather than built, with smooth organic curves mixed with harsh metal edges, long tentacle-like. Structures extended from their hulls, reaching down toward the planet's surface like the arms of some deep-sea creature. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures from those vessels," Lisa Hayes reported from her weapons station. Her usual smile was gone, replaced by a look of cold focus. "Their technology is completely unknown. I've never seen power readings like this. Are they scanning us?" Jake asked. "No, sir. They're ignoring us completely. All their attention is focused on the planet." Scifi worked quickly at his science station, his clawed hands moving across the controls. "Captain Morrison, I am detecting no life signs from the major population centers. The cities of New Haven and Port Liberty show no human activity." "That's impossible," Kate Sullivan said from communications. "New Haven alone had 800,000 people." "Keep scanning," Jake ordered. "There have to be survivors somewhere." Amy Foster had joined them on the bridge, her Marine uniform clean and pressed, but her hand resting on her sidearm. "Captain, my people are ready to go down there if you need." "Us too." Jake nodded, but kept his eyes on the main screen. The alien ships were doing something to the planet's surface. Long beams of energy connected the vessels to various points on the ground, and where the beams touched, the land itself seemed to change color. "Captain," Scifi said, his voice careful and controlled, "I am detecting artificial structures on the surface that were not there 3 days ago. Large processing facilities have been constructed near the former human settlements." "Processing facilities for what?" "Unknown. However, I am detecting organic compounds being moved from these facilities to the orbital vessels." Large quantities of organic compounds. The bridge fell silent again. Everyone understood what that meant, but nobody wanted to say it out loud. "Kate, are you getting any signals from the surface?" Jake asked. "Wait, I'm picking up something faint. It's coming from the southern continent, underground." Kate adjusted her controls, her face pale. "It's human, sir. Multiple voices. Put it through." The speakers crackled with static, then cleared enough to hear panicked human voices talking over each other. "Day 4 in the shelter. The screaming stopped this morning. Don't go outside. Whatever you do, don't go outside. They took the Hendersons yesterday. You could hear them calling for help for hours. The things they keep people alive while they work on them. Jenny saw it happen to her neighbor. They don't kill you first. Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. Kate, establish contact with those survivors. New Portland survivors. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the UES. Valiant. We're here to help. What's your situation? The response came quickly, filled with desperate hope. Captain Morrison, this is Ben Parker. Thank God someone came. We're in the emergency bunkers under the Capitol. There are maybe 3,000 of us left down here. Ben, what happened up there? What are those ships? They call themselves Devourers. They came without warning 3 days ago. No demands, no communication, nothing. It just started taking people. The ships landed these machines that hunt down anyone still alive. But Captain, they don't kill people right away. They take them to those processing plants alive. Amy Foster stepped closer to the communications station. Ben, this is Lieutenant Foster. Are the Devourers still actively hunting? Lieutenant, they never stopped. Every few hours they send out more of those machines. We can hear them moving around up there, searching. They know we're down here, but the bunker doors are holding for now. Dr. Clark leaned over Kate's shoulder. Ben, this is Dr. Clark. Are there any injured down there who need immediate medical attention? Doctor, we have wounded, but that's not our biggest problem. It's what we've seen them do to people. The Devourers don't just kill you. They hook you up to machines that keep you conscious while they drain something from your body. Think. It's some kind of energy they feed on. The pain and fear make it stronger. The bridge crew looked at each other. Veltar, the insect-like representative from the Hive Coalition, spoke for the first time since they had arrived. This is not standard predatory behavior. Most species kill their prey quickly. These Devourers appear to derive sustenance from the suffering itself. That's sick, Amy said, her voice flat and hard. Jake noticed that his crew was changing. The casual jokes and friendly banter that normally filled the bridge were gone. Everyone spoke in short, direct sentences. Even there, body language was different, more controlled and focused. Ben, we're going to get you out of there, Jake said into the communicator. How long can your bunker hold? Maybe 12 hours if we're lucky. Captain, there's something else. We intercepted some of their communications. This isn't their only target. They're planning to hit every human colony in this sector. Over 50 worlds, Captain, billions of people. Lisa Hayes turned from her weapon station. Captain, I'm detecting movement from the alien fleet. 3 of their ships are changing position. Are they coming for us? No, sir. They're moving to intercept something else. Long-range sensors show a civilian transport trying to reach the planet. It's the merchant vessel, Lucky Strike, with about 200 people on board. Jake watched the screen as the Devourer ships moved toward the helpless transport. Kate warned them off. Tell them to get out of here now, Lucky Strike. This is the EU's Valiant. You are approaching a hostile zone. Change course immediately and leave the system. The reply came back quickly. Valiant, this is Captain Torres of the Lucky Strike. We have families on New Portland. We're not leaving without them. Torres, there's nothing left to save down there. The colony is gone. I don't believe that. We're going in. On the screen, they watched as the Devourer ships reached the transport. Instead of destroying it, they captured it with some kind of energy field. Through the sensors, they could see the transport being pulled toward one of the larger alien vessels. They're taking the transport intact, Lisa reported. The ship is still functional, but it's completely trapped. Amy Foster watched the screen with cold eyes. 200 more people for their machines. Jake Morrison stood up from his command chair. The first time since joining the fleet, he didn't make a joke or try to lighten the mood. His voice was different, colder. Amy, get your Marines ready for combat operations. Lisa, prepare all weapon systems. Kate, send a priority message to Fleet Command. Tell them we've encountered a new hostile species called the Devourers. Tell them New Portland is gone. What about the survivors in the bunker? Dr. Clark asked. Jake looked at the planet on the screen, where machines hunted the last humans while others suffered in alien processing facilities. We're going to get them out, all of them. The bridge crew went to work with an efficiency that the alien observers had never seen before. The humans moved with purpose, their casual behavior replaced by something much more dangerous. They spoke, only when necessary, and their voices carried a cold determination that made even Zephy High, as a veteran warrior, feel uneasy. The Devourers had made a mistake. They thought humans were just another species to harvest. They were about to learn differently. The rescue mission to New Portland took 18 hours. 18 hours of careful planning, precise execution, and complete silence on all human communication channels. Amy Foster led her Marines through the underground tunnels, while Lisa Hayes provided cover from orbit. They saved 2,800 people from the bunkers before the Devourers broke through the final barriers. During the evacuation, the humans worked like machines. No jokes, no casual conversation, no wasted words. They spoke only to give orders or report status. Rescued colonists noticed it first. These weren't the same cheerful humans who had arrived at their colony 2 years ago to help build schools and hospitals. Dr. Ryan treated the wounded in the medical bay. Without his usual, gentle, bedside manner, he worked with cold efficiency, moving from patient to patient with only the necessary medical instructions. When one of the colonists asked him how his family was doing back on Earth, Clark simply said fine and moved to the next bed. The change spread through the ship like a disease. Kate Sullivan stopped humming while she worked at her station. Chris Young calculated navigation routes without making his usual comments about interesting star formations. Even the maintenance crews worked in silence, their normal laughter and chatter replaced by the sound of tools and machinery. But it was the quantum communications that really showed how deep the change went. Every human ship, station, and colony was connected through an advanced communication network that allowed instant messages across vast distances. Normally, these channels were filled with chatter. Captains sharing stories, crews sending messages to family, commanders discussing everything from tactical situations to what they had for breakfast. After the New Portland rescue, the network went silent. Not completely silent. Messages still moved through the system, but they were different. Military reports were reduced to essential facts only. Status updates contained nothing but numbers and coordinates. Personal messages became short and formal. Admiral Peter Hayes, commander of the Human Defense Fleet, noticed the change within hours. He sat in his office aboard the flagship UHS Determination, reading reports from across human space. Every captain, every crew member, every colonial administrator was writing in the same cold, precise style. The Admiral was Lisa Hayes' father, though they rarely spoke about family during duty hours. He had been proud of his daughter's cheerful attitude and her ability to keep morale high among mixed crews, but her latest report from the Valiant contained only tactical data and casualty numbers. No personal notes. No mention of how she was handling the stress of what she had seen. Admiral Hayes activated the fleet-wide communication system and began recording a message. He looked into the camera for several seconds before speaking. "This is Admiral Peter Hayes, commanding officer of the Human Defense Fleet. At 0800 hours Standard Time, we received confirmation of hostile action against the human colony of New Portland. The attacking force has been identified as a previously unknown species calling themselves the Devourers. They appear to specialize in the capture and processing of living sentient beings for unknown purposes." He paused, choosing his words carefully. Analysis of their technology and tactics suggests they have performed similar operations against other species across multiple galaxies. They are systematic, efficient, and completely without mercy. Intelligence reports indicate they are already moving toward other human colonies in the sector. Another pause. When he continued, his voice was harder. As of this moment, all human military forces are operating under Protocol Omega. All leave is canceled. All non-essential communications are suspended. Every ship, every base, every defensive installation is now at maximum readiness. The Admiral looked directly into the camera. "We will remember New Portland." The message lasted exactly 4 seconds. It was broadcast to every human world, ship, and station simultaneously. No explanation of what Protocol Omega meant. No detailed orders. No inspiring speeches about duty and honor. Just a simple promise that would soon become the most feared phrase in the galaxy. Across human space, the response was immediate and uniform. Military personnel stopped their casual conversations and focused entirely on their duties. Civilian administrators began implementing emergency protocols without being asked. Families said goodbye to their loved ones in the military with few words and strong hugs. On the frontier world of Angel's Rest, Marine Sergeant Maria Santos read the Admiral's message while eating lunch with her alien colleagues from the Planetary Defense Force. The Altarian bird-like creatures she normally joked with noticed the change immediately. "Sergeant Santos," said Commander Kretak, his translator making his voice sound curious. "You seem different. Are you ill?" Maria looked at the alien officer she had considered a friend for 2 years. "No, I'm fine. You have not spoken of your daughter today. You always show us pictures of your daughter." Maria stood up from the table, leaving her. "Food half finished. I have work to do." She walked away without another word, leaving the aliens staring after her in confusion. On the research vessel UHS Horizon, Commander Alex Turner was preparing his ship for immediate departure from the science station where they had been studying stellar phenomena for 6 months. The alien scientists who worked with his crew were asking questions about the sudden change in plans. "Commander Turner," said Dr. Vashti from the Crystalline Collective, her voice like wind chimes through the translator. "Why must we leave so quickly? Our research is at a critical phase." Alex looked at the Crystalline being who had shared countless hours of fascinating discussions about the nature of space and time. "Orders. But surely you can explain the reasoning behind these orders. We are partners in this research." "No." Dr. Vastia's crystal body shifted colors, showing confusion and concern. "Commander, I do not understand this change in your behavior. Yesterday you spent 3 hours explaining human theories about quantum mechanics. Today you speak only in single words." Alex walked past her toward the bridge without responding. Aboard the valiant Scifi was becoming increasingly worried about the human crew. The reptilian warrior understood military discipline, but this was something different. Humans had always been the emotional species, the ones who formed friendships easily and shared their feelings openly. Now they acted like soldiers from his own people's most elite units, cold, focused, deadly. "Captain Morrison," Scifi said as he approached Jake's command chair, "may I speak with you privately?" Jake looked at him without expression. "Speak." "Sir, I am concerned about the psychological state of your crew. This level of emotional suppression is not healthy for humans. Perhaps Dr. Clark should examine everyone for stress-related disorders. The crew is fine, but Captain, you have not smiled in 3 days. Lieutenant Hayes has not made a single joke. Communications Officer Sullivan has not played music during off-duty hours. These behaviors are not normal for humans." Jake turned to face the alien, and Scifi saw something in the human's eyes that made his warrior instincts scream danger. Normal ended at New Portland. The reptilian took a step back. In all his years serving with humans, he had never seen one look at him like that, like he was measuring him for weaknesses. Veltar approached from his science station, his forearms moving nervously. "Captain Morrison, the Hive Collective has issued queries about human military preparations. Our observers throughout the galaxy report unprecedented mobilization of human forces. The collective wishes to offer assistance." "Needed, but Captain, surely you understand that the Devourer threat affects all species. The Hive has extensive experience with coordinated defense strategies." Jake stood up from his chair. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but carried clearly across the bridge. "The Devourers made a mistake. They think we're prey." He looked at both aliens, and they felt something primitive and terrifying stir in their minds. "They're wrong." Dr. Elena Rodriguez had been studying alien psychology for 15 years, but she had never been asked to explain her own species before. The xenopsychologist sat in the conference room aboard the Galactic Council station with representatives from 12 different worlds, all asking the same question: what had happened to the humans? Dr. Rodriguez, said Ambassador Thelanara from the Centauri Federation, her blue skin showing patterns of concern. Our observers report that human behavior has changed dramatically across all sectors. Military personnel who were once friendly and open now respond only to direct questions. Civilian administrators who used to engage in cultural exchange have become focused solely on defense preparations. Lena looked around the table at faces and forms from across the galaxy. These beings had worked with humans for decades, building trade relationships and friendships. Now they were afraid. What you're seeing is not abnormal, Elena said carefully. It's simply a side of humanity that most species have never encountered. But doctor, said Representative Kolmesh from the Silicon Confederation, his mechanical voice carrying obvious worry, the change appears to be total. We have recorded no instances of human laughter, casual conversation, or recreational activities in the past week. This suggests either widespread psychological breakdown or coordinated deception. Alina stood up and walked to the large window that showed the stars beyond the station. Neither. What you're seeing is humans at war, but they are not yet fighting, pointed out Commander Vexai from the Aquatic Alliance. Water rippling in his containment suit. The Devourer fleet has not engaged human forces. How can they be at war without battle? Because war for humans doesn't begin with the first shot fired. It begins with a decision to fight. Lena turned back to face the assembled aliens. You need to understand something about human evolution. We didn't develop advanced technology and then spread across the galaxy because we were peaceful explorers. We did it because we were persistent hunters who refused to give up.
Help, please.
She activated a holographic display showing Earth's prehistoric landscape. Our ancestors hunted animals 10 times their size with nothing but sharpened sticks and determination. They would track a single mammoth for days, wearing it down, never stopping. It's never giving up until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. The display changed to show human migration patterns across Earth's continents. When the climate changed and food became scarce, humans didn't adapt to new environments. They changed the environments to suit them. They burned forests, diverted rivers, and hunted entire species to extinction rather than change their way of life. Ambassador Thelanara's skin patterns shifted to show deep unease. Doctor, are you suggesting that humans are naturally destructive? No, I'm explaining that. Humans are naturally persistent. When we decide something needs to be done, we don't stop until it's finished. Friendly, talkative behavior you've grown used to isn't our nature. It's our choice. Elena changed the display again, showing human military history. Every human culture develops similar concepts about warfare. The idea that once you commit to fight, you fight until the enemy is completely defeated. No half measures, no negotiated surrenders while the threat still exists. But surely, said the silicon-based, representative, rational beings understand the value of proportional response. You eliminate the immediate threat and then negotiate peace. That's not how humans think during wartime. We don't fight to achieve temporary safety. We fight to make sure the threat can never return. The conference room fell silent. The aliens looked at each other, communicating through various methods their growing understanding of what they were witnessing. Alina continued. The casual behavior, the jokes, the friendships humans form with other species. These are all conscious choices we make to maintain civilization. We know what lies underneath that behavior, so we work very hard to keep it controlled. And the Devourers have removed those controls, Commander Vexai said quietly. Not removed. The controls are still there. But humans have decided that the situation requires a different approach. Alina brought up tactical displays showing human fleet movements across the galaxy. What you're seeing is not humans losing control. It's humans taking control. Every joke they don't make, every casual conversation they avoid, every personal relationship they set aside, it's all energy being redirected toward a single purpose, which is, asked Ambassador Thelanara, making sure the Devourers never hurt anyone again. The aliens studied the fleet movements on the display. Human ships were moving with mathematical precision, converging on strategic points throughout the sector. Supply lines were being established with ruthless efficiency. Stations were being upgraded and armed at a rate that seemed impossible. Dr. Rodriguez, said Representative Kolmesh, our analysis suggests that humans are preparing for a conflict far larger than the current Devourer incursion. These preparations appear designed for extended campaign operations across multiple star systems. Alina nodded. That's correct. Humans don't fight to win battles. They fight to win wars. But the Devourers have only attacked one human colony, protested Commander Vexhai. Surely the response should be proportional to the threat. The Devourers made their intentions clear when they tortured innocent civilians for energy. From a human perspective, any species that commit such acts will do so again, if given the opportunity. Therefore, the threat must be eliminated completely. Alina turned off the display and faced the assembled representatives directly. I want you to understand something important. The humans you've known for the past 50 years, the ones who trade fairly, share technology freely, and work to build peaceful relationships, those humans still exist. But right now, they've chosen to become something else. What have they chosen to become? Asked Ambassador Thalanara. Apex predators? The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Even through their various environmental suits and translation devices, the aliens could feel something primitive stirring in their minds. The recognition that they were in the presence of something dangerous. The human capacity for friendship, cooperation, and peaceful coexistence is genuine, Alina continued. But it exists alongside an equally genuine capacity for relentless, systematic destruction of anything we perceive as a threat to our survival or the survival of those under our protection. She paused, choosing her words carefully. The Devourers awakened something in humanity that most of us hoped would never be necessary again. They reminded us that the galaxy contains species that view other sentient beings as resources to be harvested. Alina walked back to the window and looked out at the stars. My recommendation to your governments is simple. Do not interfere with human military operations against the Devourers. Do not offer assistance unless specifically requested. And do not mistake human silence for weakness or uncertainty. What should we do? Asked Representative Kolmesh. Stay out of our way. When humans go silent in combat, it means we've stopped trying to minimize collateral damage and started focusing on complete elimination of the threat. The Devourers chose to make themselves humanity's problem. Now they're going to discover what that means. Alina gathered her materials and prepared to leave the conference room. As she reached the door, Ambassador Thalanara called out to her, Dr. Rodriguez, will the humans return to their previous behavior when this conflict ends? Alina paused at the doorway. That depends entirely on how the Devourers choose to respond to what's coming. If they withdraw and never return to this galaxy, then yes, humans will go back to being the friendly, cooperative species you remember. And if they don't withdraw, Lena's expression grew cold, and for a moment the aliens saw something in her eyes that reminded them that she was, after all, human. Then you'll learn why humans are the only species in galactic history to completely exterminate our planet's apex predators and take their place. She left the conference room, leaving the alien representatives to contemplate the implications of what they had just learned. Outside the station's windows, human warships continued their silent preparations, moving through space with the patience and determination of persistence hunters who had found their prey. The void fields had been empty space for millions of years, nothing but scattered asteroids and cosmic dust drifting between distant stars. It was about to become the largest battlefield in galactic history. Commander Rachel Foster sat in her fighter cockpit, watching the sensor displays as the Devourer fleet approached. 47 massive bioships, each one bigger than a human city, moving in perfect formation through the asteroid field. Behind her, spread across 100,000 cubic kilometers of space, waited the human fleet. Battle Group 7 consisted of 300 ships ranging from massive dreadnoughts to single-seat fighters. Admiral Peter Hayes commanded from the flagship UHS Determination, while his daughter Lisa coordinated tactical operations from the EU's Valiant. Every vessel maintained complete communication silence, speaking only through tight beam transmissions that couldn't be intercepted. Rachel had been a fighter pilot for 8 years. She loved the freedom of flying through open space, the challenge of complex maneuvers, the camaraderie with her squadron mates. Before New Portland, she would have been joking with her wingman right now, making bets about who would score the first hit or complaining about the recycled air in her cockpit. Now she sat in perfect silence, checking her weapons systems one final time. The Devourer ships were unlike anything in the Galactic military databases. They looked like they had grown instead of being built, with smooth organic curves and pulsing veins of energy running along their hulls. Long tentacle-like appendages extended from each vessel, reaching out toward empty space, as if tasting the vacuum for signs of life. Most disturbing were the sounds they made, even through the emptiness of space. The Devourer ships broadcast psychic screams and horrifying images directly into the minds of anyone nearby. The technique had broken the morale of dozens of species across multiple galaxies. Entire fleets had surrendered or fled after only minutes of exposure to the psychological assault. The human fleet received the full force of the attack as the Devourers entered weapons range. Images of torture, scenes of previous victims being processed alive. The screams of dying civilizations all poured into human minds through some unknown technology. The response was absolute silence. No panic. No requests for orders. No breaking formation. The human ships continued their approach with mathematical precision, as if the psychological assault wasn't happening at all. Intelligence. Officer Chris Young monitored Devourer communications from his station aboard the Valiant. The alien transmissions were filled with confusion and growing alarm. Their primary weapon had always been fear, the ability to break enemy morale before the actual fighting began. They had never encountered minds that simply refused to be afraid. Captain Morrison, Chris reported quietly, the Devourers are attempting to establish communication with our fleet. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Valiant, watching the tactical display with cold eyes. What are they saying? They're demanding we withdraw and offering to spare our lives if we don't interfere with their harvesting operations in this sector. Response? None, sir? Jake nodded. The time for talking was over. The first exchange of fire began when the Devourer lead ship targeted the human destroyer UHS Boston, with some kind of energy weapon that was designed to disable rather than destroy. They wanted to capture human vessels intact, to add more victims to their processing facilities. The Boston absorbed the hit, continued on course without changing speed or formation. Then Lisa Hayes gave the order that every human ship had been waiting for: all vessels, weapons free. The human fleet opened fire with coordinated precision that took the Devourers completely by surprise. Instead of the chaotic, emotional battle they expected, they faced an attack that had been planned. Down to the second. Every shot was calculated for maximum damage, every maneuver designed to minimize human losses while systematically destroying enemy capabilities. Rachel Foster led the first fighter squadron into the heart of the Devourer formation. Small craft danced between the massive bioships, targeting specific systems with surgical precision. She didn't speak, didn't call out targets or coordinate with her wingman. They had trained for this scenario so many times that words were unnecessary. The Devourers tried to use their tentacle appendages to swat the fighters like insects, but the human pilots anticipated every move. They flew with the patience of persistence hunters, wearing down their prey one system at a time. Marine Captain Tony Garcia led boarding operations against damaged Devourer vessels. His teams moved through the alien ships like death itself, clearing each deck with methodical efficiency. They had studied the layout of bioships from the wrecks at New Portland. Learning every weakness and vulnerability, the Marines worked in complete silence, communicating only through hand signals and predetermined tactics. When they encountered Devourer crew members, they showed no mercy and asked no questions. The aliens had made their nature clear at New Portland. They would face the consequences. Dr. Ryan Clark monitored casualty reports from the medical bay of the Valiant. Humana. Losses were surprisingly light, not because the Devourers were weak, but because human tactics were so precise. Every assault was calculated to achieve maximum effect with minimum risk. The alien observers aboard the human ships watched in growing horror as they realized what they were witnessing. This wasn't a battle, it was an extermination. Sci-fi stood beside Jake Morrison on the bridge, his warrior instincts telling him that something fundamental had changed in the universe. He had fought in dozens of battles, had seen courage and skill in combat, but this was different. The humans weren't fighting with emotion or passion. They were fighting with the cold determination of a species that had decided another species needed to die. Captain Morrison, Sci-fi said quietly, the Devourer flagship is attempting to withdraw. Jake watched the massive bioship trying to break away from the battle. Its escort vessels were moving to cover its retreat, sacrificing themselves to protect their command ship. Kate, signal Commander Foster. Tell her to take her squadron and disable that ship's engines. Sir Kate Sullivan replied from her communications station. Should I tell her to target any specific systems? No. She knows what to do. Rachel Foster received the order and adjusted her course toward the Devourer flagship. The massive vessel was 3 kilometers long, covered in defensive weapons, and protected by layers of energy shields. Any other pilot would have considered it an impossible target for a small fighter. Rachel saw it as just another problem to solve. She dove through the ship's defensive fire with moves that seemed to ignore the laws of physics, her fighter dancing between energy beams that could have vaporized her in an instant. Her wingman followed, each one picking a different target on the massive vessel. The Devourer flagship had been designed to intimidate and terrify its enemies. Its hull was covered with images of previous victims, and it broadcast the screams of the dying on all frequencies. The ship itself was a weapon of psychological warfare against the silent human fighters. It was just a very large target. Rachel's first shot disabled the main engine. Her second took out the navigation systems. Her third and fourth eliminated the communication arrays. Within minutes, the flagship was drifting helplessly, unable to escape or call for help. Across the battlefield, the pattern repeated itself. Human forces systematically dismantled each Devourer vessel with cold efficiency. There were no dramatic speeches, no last-minute heroics, no appeals for mercy, just the methodical elimination of a threat that had made the mistake of targeting human civilians. The Devourer hive mind, connected across all their ships, experienced something it had never felt before in its long history of conquest and harvest. Fear, not the simple fear of death, which they had encountered in other species. This was something deeper and more terrifying. It's the fear of meeting a predator that was better at hunting than they were. The void fields fell silent after 12 hours of systematic destruction. Where 47 Devourer bioships had entered the asteroid field, only debris and cosmic dust remained. The human fleet hung motionless in space, their weapons powered down but still ready, scanning for any sign of surviving enemies. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Youth Valiant, watching the cleanup operations on the main screen. Marine teams moved through the wreckage, searching for survivors and gathering intelligence. They found no living Devourers, but they did find something else that made the entire battle worthwhile, in the damaged cargo holds of the destroyed ships. They discovered processing equipment still containing thousands of beings from dozens of different species. Most were already dead, but some were still alive, kept conscious by the alien machines that fed on their suffering. Dr. Ryan Clark worked with teams of medics to free as many as they could, though many were too damaged to save. The rescue operations continued in the same silence that had marked the battle. Human crews moved efficiently through the wreckage, their faces showing no emotion as they documented the horror they found. Every processing facility, every torture device, every piece of equipment designed to harvest pain and fear was carefully cataloged and then destroyed. It was Intelligence Officer Chris Young who intercepted the final Devourer transmission as their hive mind collective collapsed. The message was broadcast on all frequencies, reaching across multiple galaxies to warn others of their kind. The silent hunters cannot be consumed. The transmission said in a dozen different languages. They do not break. They do not flee. They do not forgive. Avoid the galaxy where the silent hunters live. Jake Morrison listened to the message and felt something shift inside his chest. For the first time in 2 weeks, he took a breath that didn't feel heavy with the weight of revenge. "Kate," he said to Communications Officer Kate Sullivan, "send a message to Admiral Hayes. Tell him the void fields are clear." "Yes, sir." Kate's voice was still flat and professional, but Jake thought he heard something different in it. Something that hadn't been there since New Portland. The first sign of change came 3 hours later when Dr. Clark finished treating the last of the rescued victims. He walked onto the bridge looking exhausted, his medical uniform stained with the evidence of his work. He moved to the coffee machine in the corner and poured himself a cup, then stood looking out at the stars. "It's over," he said quietly. The simple words carried across the bridge like a signal. Lisa Hayes looked up from her tactical station, where she had been reviewing battle damage reports. For the first time in weeks, she managed a small smile. She said, "It's over." The change spread through the ship like sunlight after a long night. Not immediately, and not all at once, but gradually the human crew began to remember who they were when they weren't at war. Conversations started with work topics, but slowly expanded to include personal thoughts and feelings. Marine, Lieutenant Amy Foster found herself telling her squad about the letter she had received from her sister back on Earth. Communications. Officer Kate Sullivan started humming while she organized the message logs. Even Captain Morrison caught himself making a joke about the reconstituted food in the mess hall. The alien observers aboard the Valiant watched this transformation with fascination and relief. Sci-fi approached Jake during the evening shift, when the bridge was quiet and most of the crew was off duty. "Captain Morrison," the reptilian said carefully, "you seem different than you were this morning." Jake looked at his old friend and felt genuine warmth for the first time since the rescue at New Portland. "I feel different. Like I can think about something other than killing devourers." "The Saurian Empire has legends about such transformations," Sci-fi said. "Warriors who could become pure instruments of destruction when necessary, then return to peaceful life when the threat was ended. We thought they were just stories. Maybe they were stories about humans." Iltar joined them, his forearms moving in what Jake had learned was a gesture of relief among his people. "The Hive Collective is grateful that human warfare has specific objectives. We were concerned that once your species began such focused violence, you might not be able to stop." Jake considered this. "We can stop. The question is whether we'll need to start again." The reports from across human space over the following days showed that the transformation was reversing everywhere. Military units maintained their readiness, but resumed normal communication protocols. Civilian administrators began planning reconstruction projects for the affected colonies. Families started making plans for the future again, but the galaxy had been forever changed by what it witnessed. Dr. Alina Rodriguez published her final report on the incident, which became required reading at every military academy and diplomatic school in known space. Her conclusions were simple, but profound. Humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy is not their capacity for violence, but their ability to choose when and how to use it. They are gardeners who can become wolves when their garden is threatened, then return to gardening when the threat is eliminated. The report spread through diplomatic channels, translated into hundreds of languages, and shared among thousands of species. For the first time, the galaxy understood that the friendly, talkative humans they had grown to know were not naive or weak. They were a species that had consciously chosen cooperation over conquest, friendship over dominance. Admiral Peter Hayes addressed the Galactic Council 6 months after the Void Fields battle. His message was broadcast to every world in the known galaxy. "The human species has no desire for expansion or conquest," he said. "We prefer trade to warfare, cooperation to conflict, friendship to domination. But we want every species in this galaxy to understand one simple fact." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "If you threaten innocent civilians, if you harvest sentient beings for your own purposes. If you mistake our friendship for weakness, you will discover that humans have not forgotten how to hunt. The message ended with footage from the Void Fields battle, showing human ships systematically destroying the Devourer fleet. The images were stark and terrifying, but they served their purpose. No species in the galaxy ever again made the mistake of thinking humans were easy prey. Jake Morrison returned to his normal duties aboard the Valiant, conducting diplomatic missions and exploration operations throughout the sector. His crew resumed their usual cheerful banter and casual behavior. Alien observers once again enjoyed working with humans, finding them cooperative and friendly. But now everyone understood what lay beneath that friendly exterior. The memorial on New Portland was completed 1 year after the attack. The central monument was simple black stone with names of the dead carved in precise letters. At the base was a single inscription that became known throughout the galaxy. When humans go silent, the galaxy remembers why it should have stayed peaceful. Children from dozens of species would visit the memorial in the years that followed, learning about the day when humanity showed the universe that some lines should never be crossed. The lesson was simple but important. The species that tells jokes and shares coffee can also hunt predators to extinction when necessary. The galaxy was safer because everyone understood that humans had made a choice to be peaceful, and they could make a different choice if that peace was threatened. In the quiet of space, aboard ships carrying mixed crews of humans and aliens, the work of exploration and cooperation continued. Laughter returned to the communication channels. Friendship bloomed between species, and trade routes expanded to connect distant worlds. But in the back of every alien mind was the memory of silent human warships, moving through space with the patience and determination of persistence hunters who had found their prey. The lesson of the Void Fields was never forgotten. When humans go silent in combat, the galaxy knows what comes next.